I am best friends with Cooper Sephiroth and Dr. Wily, always smiley, but my thoughts are red just like my Ozzy. Yep, we get it, we get it, we get it.
What's up, my Wizards Dev? SBMTG down there. We have a deck today that people have been patiently awaiting, or not so in some cases, for months. I first talked about this deck around the time like Battle for Zendikar came out. It was months ago now. And I've been testing it the whole time. I've drafted this deck up over a dozen times. At this point, I think I finally got something I'm comfortable bringing to you. This we call Lucky Charms, and it's finally here. What is this? There's context clues in the name there. We're playing charms in this deck. We're also playing commands, which are like honorary charms. Just we have a lot of spells, 12 to be exact, 12 slots in the deck, that have choose options on them. We can do a lot of different things with as few cards as possible. That's really cool. And we've got a lot of creatures that complement that, you know, these different spells that we're playing. So I wanted to bring this deck to you before these cards rotate in 7-8 weeks, I think is when Shadows over Innistrad becomes legal to play in Standard and kicks out Khans and Favor Forged. There's actually a lot of stuff that I want to do before the format rotates, and I've got probably 6 or 7 different ideas for videos, all of which I'll tell you about at the end of the video. So stick around and remember to like the video too. That's really important to me, so don't just do that. It's really helpful. Let's talk about the actual deck in question. That's why we're all here. There's 15 creatures in this deck. It started off as sort of a control type deck that played very few creatures and a lot of spells. Still play a lot of spells, 19 non-creature spells, but there's so many creatures in the format that interact well with the different things we're doing in the spell base that I just wanted to play them all, and that's sort of what we're doing. 3 copies of Hangerback Walker in the deck. This performs some vital functions I'd like to talk about. This is a 5-color deck. That's all the colors, if you're counting. So we need something that sort of takes the pressure off of our mana base. That's very important to have something that just costs colorless mana, and we don't have to worry about getting a bunch of colors together to play the card. So it's good to have, you know, to take some pressure off of the mana base. That's important. And it's a 2-drop. We need some 2-drops. A lot of our spells start at 3. You know, charms, commands, a lot of them start at 3 mana and move up from there. So we have to have something to do on our second turn. Hangerback Walker is good, allowing us to get a little bit deeper in the game, often blocking twice. And if you can actually bust it open and get 3 or 4 tokens off of it, that's good with like Jeskai charms, you know, +1/+1 in lifelink mode. That's awesome. So we got some cool interactions with Hangerback Walker in the deck. And other things, you know, Abzan Charm we're obviously playing and is obviously historically proven very good with Hangerback Walker. Same thing with Dromoka's Command, historically very good with Hangerback. So there's many, many reasons to play Hangerback Walker in the deck. 4 copies of Jace Vryn's Prodigy. He's in the deck. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I know. He's a lot of money. He's a lot of money, but you could play the deck without him, but you'd be missing a very, very important component to the deck. He's just super obvious for what we're trying to do. We want to draw a bunch of cards. We've got a bunch of ways of getting cards out of the graveyard, so it doesn't matter that we have to discard cards when we draw cards. Once we flip him, he's a form of defense that gets us later into the game, and the most obvious thing here is that he can recast the many, many charms and commands that are in our spell base here. So Jace is just the ideal card for the deck, and you won't see too many 4-ofs in this deck. We're really specializing all the different cards we're playing like a control deck would normally do. But Jace really, yeah, is the only 4-of in the entire deck, but he warrants that because he's just the thing that the deck wants. Yes. 3 copies of Den Protector in the deck, yet another resilient card, getting things back from the graveyard for you. Not only the charms and commands that we're employing, but also all of these creatures. I already said there's 15 creatures in the deck. That gives Den Protector a lot of good targets to bring back, and a lot of those creatures have like into the battlefield effects, things they do for you when they come into play. So yeah, Den Protector. And we're playing enough to get into the Den Protector loop, which is always something you gotta mention. So yeah. Oh, one more thing too. Interacts well with all the charms and commands as well, because he can get +1/+1 counters off of Jeskai Charm. You can just get +1/+1 buff off of, and that makes him more unblockable. Abzan Charm and Dromoka's Command can both administer +1/+1 counters, rendering him, you know, nigh unblockable in some situations. So Den Protector does lots of stuff, and I'd like to shoehorn in a 4th copy of him, but it's really hard to free up the space. The deck has become extremely tight over the last couple of months. So, you know, 3 Den Protector is probably all we need, but I'd really like to play that 4th. One more 2-drop creature here. You know, I said we're not playing a lot of 2-drop spells. We have to do something on our second turn. We got a lot of good options. You know, we want to have fun. playing Magic cards. There's 2 copies of Soulfire Grandmaster in the deck. Interacts with 7 of our spells in the spell base here to give them lifelink. It actually interacts with every spell in the spell base because you can buy back anything as long as you have the mana to do it. And that can actually be like crippling later on in the game. Buying back a Dig Through Time is ridiculous. And really anything in the spell base. I'll get to them in a second. Probably should have done the spells first, but anyway, anything in the spell base, buying those back is amazing. And just like Jace, you know, that can recast spells. Den Protector can get spells back. We'll talk about another creature that recasts spells and yet another that can get things back. And then this can also buy back spells. Just the deck is ridiculously resilient and can get, you know, it doesn't really care about putting things in the graveyard. You know, you can get them back. And with Soulfire, you can cast things and get them back immediately. So, you know, not only can we give a lot of our spells lifelink, we can buy back all of our incredibly important spells. So a lot of people might want to put Soulfire in the sideboard. I think she's definitely relevant enough to put in the main deck. I want to finish up the creatures by talking about 3 dudes that are all way bigger than the guys I've already talked about, each of which we're playing 1 copy of here. But they're all integral to the deck, they're all win conditions, and they all do stuff that's very important for us. We're playing 1 copy of Goblin Dark Dwellers in the deck to start off that sequence. Goblin Dark Dwellers, good win condition, has Menace, that's a form of evasion, but mostly this is going to be recasting like Abzan Charms and Crackling Dooms for you all freaking day. The card is just amazing. I like to play 2, but I'm not sure that red is supported well enough in the mana base, to be honest with you, to be really comfortable playing 2 copies. I don't mind playing the 1. But when this recast, you know, can recast almost anything in the entire spell base. Can't recast a Jutai's Command, Murderous Cut, or Dig Through Time. It can get everything else. Everything else is pretty relevant. You know, recasting Abzan Charm is pretty dope. So, and Crackling Doom, you know, Dramoka's Command, Jeskai Charm. There's a lot of stuff. So Goblin Dark Dweller is at least the 1 copy. The card is ridiculous. I'm playing 1 copy of Ojutai in the deck because why not? He's a big old flying hexproof card advantage generating dragon, man. And I'm gonna play him, you know. We're playing the colors. We need a decent win condition. We have a couple of them, but this is just the best win condition maybe in the entire format. Generates card advantage. Just a 1. Just a 1. Let's do it. In the last one of creature here, in the last creature actually, just a 1 of Tassiger, which again I could see playing 2 copies of this. To be honest, I don't know where to put the space. This Tassiger's a good win condition in of himself, you know, big body, that's good. You can often cast him for the 1 mana. We're playing a lot of fetch lands and spells and stuff in the deck. And he'll let you get back the stuff you've cast. Just no yes to Tassiger. Why would you not play Tassiger? We're really gonna miss you, buddy. Into the spells here, 19 of them. That's kind of a lot, but you know, spells are what makes the deck Lucky Charms. As far as actual charms go, let's just talk about those. We're playing 2 copies of Jeskai Charm and 3 copies of Abzan Charm in the deck. Jeskai Charm is amazing with Soulfire Grandmaster. I think the format has taught us that at this point. Also, Jeskai Charm really good with Hangerback Walker tokens. Already mentioned that. And we're playing a bunch of creatures in the deck, so just that last mode is good in and of itself, not to mention it's a form of removal, good tempo removal on top of that. So yeah, just everything about Jeskai Charm, why would we not play that? And then Abzan Charm, I could say the same thing. Removes huge dudes forever, exiling them, puts counters on Hangerback Walker, Den Protector, and really any other creatures that we're playing that we might want to do that with, and draws cards, so, which is something the deck also wants to do a lot. So these are just the 2 best charms in the entire format, sort of hands down. They're leagues above the other charms. Here's the commands in the deck. I'm going to lump those all together too, and I'll go to the graphic for that. There's 3 copies of Dramoka's Command, 2 copies of Kolagon's Command, and 2 copies of Ojutai's Command. Ojutai's Command gets back both Jace and Soulfire Grandmaster, and Jeskai Black, that's proven to be absolutely ridiculously just crippling for a lot of decks, especially considering we'll get back one of those 2 creatures and do something else. Often we'll be countering one of their guys. The ability to, against mid-range or even aggro decks, counter a creature on turn 4 and gain 4 life back is great. Against mid-range, you'll be countering a guy drawing a card. That card advantage is very important. So just extremely versatile options on Ojutai's Command. And it's just everything about that card's good. Same thing with Kolagon's Command. This can get back a lot of stuff. It's really good with Soulfire Grandmaster. Obviously, it's the lifelink clause is fulfilled there. Lots of relevant creatures that have enter the battlefield effects. I've already talked about that in the deck. So getting back creatures to your hand and then casting them can be amazing if you're getting back like a Dark Dwellers or something. That seems good. And then hangerbacks too. You know, once they bust a hangerback, you can get it back with the Kolaghan's Command and play it for even bigger than you had it the first time. So, and you know, obviously I haven't talked about busting artifacts is good in this format. Hangerback Walker exists, as does, you know, Hedron Archive. That's around. And making the discard is good against control, which we're already fairly good against because of all of our resiliency. So Kolaghan's Command is a must play, and then Dromoka's Command again that's a good main deck way of dealing with enchantments. It's good with Hangerback Walker. It's good with Dim Protector. It's removal, which we need in the deck. Just, you know, just all three of these commands are key cards in the format right now. And we can play them in the same deck together, and there's a lot of different creatures that they interact with well in the deck. So really, these are sort of, even more than the charms, the backbone of the deck. Into stuff that's not charms and commands, 3 copies of Crackling Doom, the card that I might miss the most when it leaves the format. Just Crackling Doom is better than it's ever been right now. Sure, you know, Anafenza, Siege Rhino, big creatures that are still in the format and will get hit often by Crackling Doom. But there's also now in this format Big Eldrazi, from, you know, Ulamog to Kozilek all the way on down to like Reality Smasher and Thought-Knot Seer, which Crackling Doom will hit, you know, all of those often. So Crackling Doom better really than ever, and it's always been an important card in the format. So yes, Crackling Doom, play as many of those as you can, and I was able to fit 3 copies, and I really wouldn't blame you playing 4. Just 1 rogue copy of Murderous Cut in the deck. We need all the removal we can get. This is a really good piece that we can play for 1 mana as early as turn 4 some of the time. So yeah, Murderous Cut, I'd again like to put 2 copies even of that, because we don't have a lot of cards with Delve in the deck. I feel like we've got extra slots for those, but again, super tight deck list, and we are running a lot of removal sort of in our spell base anyway, so it's not as necessary, but Murderous Cut is just always good to find room for. It's like Cello. And 3 copies of Dig Through Time to finish off the main deck here. Dig Through Time is probably the thing I'm actually going to miss the most when it rotates, because it more or less leaves magic. You know, you can play 1 copy in Vintage, and you can play 1 copy, obviously, in your EDH Commander deck. But aside from that, once it leaves Standard, it obviously won't be in Standard. It'll be banned in Modern. It's banned in Legacy. So the card is pretty much just gone from Magic after it rotates. And that's like really sad, because the card is just fantastic. You know, it's just for Standard, it seems amazing. This is one of the only times we've ever been able to say, like, this card is banned in Eternal formats, but we can play it in Standard. It's super powerful in this deck, just the best way of finding options. All of our cards have good options on them, you know, and this is a way of finding options at instant speed for very, very cheap. So Dig Through Time is just, again, a must play, and if you want to find room to make 4 copies, can't blame you. 26 lands in the deck, and I swear the mana base is the hardest part of building the deck. 5-color deck, even though we have all the options for a mana base for that, it can be hard to tweak and figure out what, you know, what you need the right ratio of for the different sort of colors that you're playing. So what we ended up with 19 white sources, 17 blue sources, 12 black sources, 12 red sources, and 11 green sources. And that 1 Shambling Vent is more important than it looks. Alongside the Mystic Monastery, playing that 1 Tri-land actually helps a lot. Here's the sideboard right here, and there's some really important stuff for game 2 and 3 in here, starting with Silk Wrap, an integral card that could be in the main deck, to be honest with you. We just have to have a good way of helping to stop aggro decks, or at least slowing them down significantly. And sometimes Hangerback Walker isn't the best thing for that. Silk Wrap can be very, very good in the early game, and can even take out things as big as Anafenza or you know, Manus Rider. So Silk Wrap, a very important card that could make the main deck. It just depends on your locals. If your locals are filled with aggro decks, just the filth of aggro, which I like aggro, you know, but still, just filled with aggro decks, you might want to make main deck room for Silk Wrap. I think it's the most low to the ground, you know, low cost removal option we can play, and it's very, very good. And here are your power rankings. A final score of 69, that is in the upper echelon of standard playable decks here. You know, a score of 70 is a blowout score, so 69 approaching 70 is very, very good. You know, you see a lot of these categories are very high marks. The power score of 9 is definitely warranted. Let me run through this real quick. Hangerback Walker, Jace, Den Protector, Tassiger, Soulfire Grandmaster, all the charms, the commands that we're playing, Kolaghan's, Ojutai's, and Dromoka's Command, Crackling Doom. These are all just like incredibly important and powerful cards. I mean, I just basically named every card in the deck, save for a couple. And these are all just like marquee cards in the format. So that power score is warranted. And then the versatility score is high because obviously, like I've said, 12 different cards that allow us to choose from a variety of options. That makes us very versatile. And we're very resilient. All the cards that we play are resilient. Man, we got Goblin Dark Dwellers allows us to recast things. Jace lets us recast things. Dim Protector gets things back. Soulfire Grandmaster buys things back. Tasker gets stuff back. Kolagon's Command can get creatures back. Ojutai's Command can get creatures back. Just every card in the deck is extremely resilient, so that score is also very much warranted. The only hiccup here is the consistency, which, considering we're a 5-color deck, can be fairly low at times. You won't get the mana that you need every single time, even with this mana base, which I think is the best possible mana base. Although I'm sure I may be disputed on that, but this is the best mana base I've come across to play the deck with so far. But there's still consistency issues in the cards that you occasionally draw and the lands that you occasionally get. The bad news is that the deck's going to cost you about $700 or so, $750 even, dollars to make on TCG Player if you go by the median prices. Let me know how you feel about that, but I promise you I'd tell you about some upcoming projects here at the end of the video, and I'll try to make this quick. First of all, starting either early March, maybe the first or second week of March, I am going to start doing, again, post-rotation decks. That's something I like to do before the format rotates in earnest, because we've really, especially in this format, experimented with almost everything we can. I know people are sick of the Abzans and the Jeskai and all that, 3-color combination decks, which there still be plenty of, I think, when the format rotates. The land bases won't be completely decimated for 3 colors, but 4 colors is probably going to be right out. But in any case, I'm going to start doing post-rotation decks very soon, is the gist of that. Let me know if you have any ideas or anything. And obviously we're going to have to wait for some spoilers to come out for Shadows over Innistrad before I really start sitting down and making anything important. Solar Flare, I'm trying to wait. I know a lot of people want that deck. Solar Flare, I'm trying to wait to see if maybe there's a really good reanimation target in Shadows over Innistrad. And there likely will be. It's probably going to be a graveyard-focused set. We've already seen that it definitely is. So and that set's got Madness in it, so there's going to be good discard outlets and, good Madness cards. So I'm going to maybe hold back and see if Solar Flare is more viable. And I think it's good now, but more viable when we get some options out of Shadows. And I'm going to do maybe one more budget deck or 2 before the format rotates. I'm thinking about Mono Black Sacrifice. That's an important deck that I could do for under $100. And then Mono Blue Midrange I could do for as low as $50 or maybe even lower dollars. And I think Mono Blue Midrange is a really good deck in the format. So let me know how you feel about that. Also got the Farewell to Tarkir blocker, just really cons in Favor Forge. Farewell video coming up. It's going to be a fun one. And then finally, I'm pretty sure that's the last one. Yeah. Somebody suggested I do my top 10 standard decks ever of all time, and I'm looking into doing that right now. So let me know if you're hyped for that in any way. And I will see you guys next time. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Helps out the channel a lot when you do any of those YouTube things. That's why the YouTubers always ask you to do those things. My name's Deb from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.